One question, what are the benefits for you from meteor.js?
It was just, I mean, I would, personally, I'd wait right now a bit more until there's really some more stable stuff coming out. For me, it was just an example to try it out because I'm working on something really similar with the traditional way. Okay, so now the nice one. It's something they had it's basically just a to-do list application, and you're probably already sick of them.
It's not a chat at least.
It could be.
It's just you have different lists for the to-do categories. Come on. Why doesn't it work?
It's pretty.
It's pretty.
It might well be, yeah.
Tab?
Because this one works. Yeah. You can rename them, but well, anyway, yeah. And so in there they had implemented different lists, so different collections. So they had so it's a bit more code in here, but basically they have two different collections, lists and to-dos, and every single list item can have multiple to-dos in there. And so what they did was just initial launch, they just published all the available lists, as you can see here on the left hand side, and basically we'll be able to click them, but somehow it didn't work. And then all the to-dos are only synced to the client when you basically click on a list. So you don't have to waste your data. And the way it does this one is at the initial launch it subscribes to the list, and then it has some kind of auto-subscribe mechanism, which is sort of magic. Whenever you hit a list item, it just subscribes to the to-dos associated with this. And then just all the event handlers and basically, I mean, all the data fetching and logic thing is mostly done in MongoDB's search query. You say I have like find one or find elements, and if you get multiple ones, you can bind them to the view layer, and it does it. So you have, for example, different tag filters, and then you need to search for them. Oh yeah, here. So for example, here, if you want to search for different, like sort of, in here you all want to have the elements for chemistry. You would basically make a find request against all the to-dos with the list ID, and then for each of those afterwards see if there's a tag in there. It's really a brute force implementation right now, and I don't think it's scalable that way. So that's basically it for the demos. And
quick question, if you don't mind. Like, the interesting thing about the data bindings in Meteor, as far as I've understood it, is that like if you now open the debugging tools and you just go in and change the properties, they sync to the database because it like monitors all the changes. So what you get by doing all the data binding stuff is that persistence just happens, like by doing.
Might.
Should?
Yeah, it should. You might. It obviously doesn't.
Okay.
Even if you're using MongoDB standalone,
okay,
there's no persistency, like guaranteed. The problem is what they tried to achieve was whenever you insert some item in a collection, it eventually shows up on some coworker's machine. And then storing it is some kind of different story. Yeah, because first of all, you have to make sure that it's really written to disk, and like, so first of all, you have to make sure that it's written to the minimum implementation in your browser. Then you have to make sure that it's actually transmitted to the server, sort of in real time, and then it gets written to the database there. And then eventually it will be synchronized to the other clients as well. And then what happens if some kind of coworker edits the same field as well, sends it back to the server, then the newest one just wins. There's no collision detection. So, and also, if you want to implement locking, yeah.
The last one to lock win.
I won't recommend doing so. So there's no persistency. And also, I mean, for a to-do list application, it might be nice to just use those collections and the syncing and so on. It's really usable, but as for the game, for example, it's not suited at all. It looks nice because it really makes it easy to develop something, but from a security perspective and from a synchronizing and collision detection thing, it makes no sense. Yeah.
I'm kind of new to the whole JavaScript world, I guess. But from what you said, it sounds like Meteor is not really suited for anything at the moment. But we would just not to say, I'm not saying this is a bad thing, of course, because it's very young and everything. So what do you think are, in the end, are its possible future use cases, and what needs to happen right now to make it suitable for those use cases in the end?
Can I throw in another one?
Yeah.
That goes into the same. How does it differ from a usual backbone.js application?
It just gives you a lot more tools in advance. You don't have to implement them manually whenever you create a Meteor application.
So it's a framework around
you already get a lot of stuff.
Backbone does for you. Okay.
Backbone and MongoDB implementation stuff. You already get it. And if you, for example, look at some implementation here, obviously not viewable. Sorry for those with side problems. So it basically creates a .meteor folder, and in there it has all the, it's basically a Node.js application as well. And every single time you edit your files, it will be converted and put in there and restarted again. So, what's the question again?
You can also answer his question. The future of meteor.js.
What needs to happen to make it suitable?
I don't think anything special.
Well,
specific needs to
authentication.
happen. I mean, authentication is a big one, sure. But apart from that, I think if there's more lockdown in there, it's not scalable anymore.
Okay.
And I just think people who want to use something like this, they need to be aware of what can happen if they use it in the wrong kind of fashion. But I mean, tools who offer some kind of database implementation in the client, they have those risks, and I don't think anything specifically will come from the Meteor guys as well to sort of prohibit certain stuff.
Okay. So what are the use cases in the end? I mean, because I'm kind of not familiar with the whole thing.
I can't really name any.
Okay.
I mean, they obviously show the to-do list application, but
Yeah.
even that one has flaws. I mean, yeah. So it used to work with the older version at least. But the problem is, with every project you need to define first up what you want and what you don't want. And I don't think Meteor is the solution to all of those. But for example, if you're just starting out with some kind of hackathon project, then Meteor is really nice because you can debug it in the browser and you have the same data sets in there, and you can. So one thing which is actually nice as well, if you start your server. So for example, if I start up the Meteor application again, and where is it? start this up again and you edit something and then you refresh the browser.
I didn't sync yet.
Okay, anyway, so the cool thing is when you now change your file here, let's say I'll just make something else in here. You still get the data in there, so it does restart the server itself, but all your data is here, which might be a benefit under some circumstances, but also was really hard to figure out and debug as well for other ones, especially with my game example earlier, because I associate the user ID, which Socket.io gives out to every user, and bound it to the browser. I ran into some troubles because the collections already existed and I had to sort of delete it again.
I wonder what kind of company you have to be that you make changes on the server so it restarts. I think that's strange behavior, so that the server restarts automatically, or is that, I don't understand it, I think.
I mean, if you for example look at Heroku's hosting platform,
Yeah.
when you upload the Node.js application there, it's also watched with the daemon tool, so whenever it crashes, it just restarts again.
Yeah.
I actually like the Node.js approach that whenever something goes wrong, it really terminates. And it gives you a stack trace sort of, and then you can debug it later on. But why make something still run when there's something going terribly wrong? And in meteor ways, for example, it crashes as well, and then it just gives you the stack trace. Where is it? So it will just give you the stack trace afterwards as well. You just don't see it when the server is restarting. But you see the stack trace and then it restarts, but you don't see it there. And for you, it appears to be still running.
Okay.
Maybe kind of similar to what the previous two questions were. But what's the advantage of having the local database? Is it speed? Is it offline?
I mean, if for example couples the local database to the HTML5 local storage thing, you can have some kind of offline capabilities.
But that's not what you're aiming for
No,
with
no.
this, right?
It's just for example, the to-do list application. Let's say you have 1,000 users on your to-do list application, and you obviously have latency in between. You can insert something right away, and it appears for you on screen, and then it just handles the syncing in the background, and you don't notice it. It's just for the user
That's what
experience.
asynchronous calls are for.
Yeah.
Until
No,
from
if
away.
you do the data binding through the database and you have your view coupled to your database, you don't want to have the latency there, because like if you enter something, it should show up immediately. And if you do all the data bindings like through the database, and when the data changes, you change the view, you want to propagate it somewhere where it happens now.
So the advantage in that case is speed.
Yeah, it's like
So
being able to write interfaces that don't talk to the server first and then to the user, but like they work locally and they sync eventually, not the other way around. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's basically just you see something right away, and then it eventually will be triggered and synced to the other client as well. And yeah, I mean, especially if you edit something from both sides, that might be a huge problem. Because you need to figure out at some point what wins.
Yeah, but you need to do that anyway.
Yeah, but normally if you...
It's just if they both have a timestamp, and at one point it's a local timestamp and the other it's a server timestamp.
But you need to think about it, and I mean, you know that kind of way, but I'm not really happy with the way Meteor presented itself at the beginning, like sort of the beginner framework, because all those beginners, they don't necessarily know what can happen, because they just think, okay, it's now in my client database, and it's everywhere. I don't have to care about it anymore. And you might run into some problems like this one, where you have some collision, and you need to implement timestamps or like other algorithms to figure out who and when.
And you said the database uses, you said memory? Is it stored in memory, or does it use local storage or anything else?
For the client side, it's just memory. It's a minimal implementation. And on the server, for development, you have an in-memory in Node. And you can also hook up a native MongoDB implementation. And also, you can, if you then deploy it on the Meteor platform, which is sort of you deploy your app, meteor.com, and they then will have a MongoDB database in the backend, which will give it some persistency. But obviously, if you deploy something now, and there's some kind of user coming, like, okay, nice, what kind of collections are there in? Okay, just remove all of them, and yeah. That kind of shit can happen.
Another question too. Is every data between server and client transported through WebSockets using Socket.io?
I think so, except from the initial request.
Okay, so it's basically if you save an object, it's through a WebSocket and not through. Okay.
I haven't really looked into that one. I mean, I know that they're using Socket.io for communication, and I think, it doesn't really make sense to somehow trigger it differently.
Can you delete something? Just. Okay. Whoa.
It's using the XHR fallback transport of Socket.io.
Yeah, I didn't really put much thought into that one. And I don't really know that they use stock.js, and if that is the native Socket.io.
Now, Sock.js is kind of a competing product to Socket.io, but they really only focus on the transport. So Socket.io is kind of, it gives you this abstraction of different transports and fallback implementations, but it also gives you a library on top of it. With Sock.js, you really just get the transport abstraction. It doesn't really give you a fancy interface.
Okay.
So you just get the WebSocket API on the server and on the client with different implementations, and that's it.
Okay.
And I guess they used Socket.io initially for Meteor, and then like 2 days ago someone decided let's switch it to Sock.js, and tomorrow they'll probably switch it back again.
I think in the last week's version they had it still already on Sock.js, maybe before, yeah. And the biggest one is really like the user fibers, and the way you have to rethink your code and how you write it.
So it makes it easy for a Java programmer to migrate to a client implementation, perhaps.
But maybe it sort of feel weird because you only have to write so little code.
So they all just go, that's great.
Maybe down the boilerplate
No burger.
Okay, so thanks. I know it's just kind of. I just had to play with my tools.
Very pretty. Prettier than the pretty demo.
What font are you using?
Did you do the artwork yourself, or?
Yeah, I did it with the iPad application.
Oh my gosh.
Cool. What you can take really nice, just some watercolors in there.
Yeah.
You have like a slide script.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
a bunch of people asking objects. It's nice.
Just maybe before you all run and scramble and start yelling around.
I know, it's
They
ridiculous.
started already. But as always, we're always looking for speakers. And, if you want to do a presentation next time or the time after, or whenever, just get in touch with me or the JS Zurich Twitter account. And that's it. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Xion. Oh. Now you can all stand up.
I always get scared when
So, das war cool gewesen.